Let's move on to another story, because I know that it's very close to both of your hearts. The BBC reports that flat owners will not have to pay to remove dangerous cladding from lower height buildings under new government plans. It means that leaseholders in buildings of between 11 and 18.5 metres will no longer be expected to take out personal loans to cover the cost of the work. Instead, the government will try and secure up to £4 billion from developers towards the cost. This is all, of course, in the wake of the Grenfell fire, which killed 72 people in 2017, with flammable cladding and other fire safety defects discovered in hundreds of blocks of flats across the UK. Justin, these are leaked documents from Michael Gove's department. What do you make of those documents so far?
Yeah, well, I'm hoping, and John Peters hoping as well, that we get a statement from Michael Gove on Monday where he can set out this in a bit more detail. Certainly, the principle that's set out in that letter, that the builders and developers of these properties are the ones who should be picking up the tab for all this, is absolutely one that we have been arguing for a long time. So I think we're both very pleased that has been accepted in government now. I think there's probably still some concern about how likely it is that developers will come forward voluntarily and pay up a sum of £4 billion plus. We will have to see how that goes. But there is some, I think, suggestion in the documents as well that if they don't do it voluntarily, legal action might be required. And I think then we get into quite murky territory, really, because I think that some of the arguments that will be put forward by the builders will be that they complied with the law as it was at the time, or that there were other people involved, possibly manufacturers of materials. You could get into, multi-party claims with lots of people who might not even be based in this country, might have gone bust years ago, and it could drag on for a very long time. So I hope that the sort of signal that they're going to try and recover the money from the builders doesn't lead to litigation, because it will, I think, drag on for ages, and that actually if the voluntary approach doesn't work, a change in the law and an increase in the levy is what's needed. And the other thing to mention, I think, as well, is that it doesn't look at the moment as if this is going to include fire defects which aren't directly related to cladding.
Yeah.
And we know that when a lot of the cladding's been removed and there's been inspections done on a lot of these properties, they've found all sorts of other things, and that can still be bills that run into thousands and thousands of pounds for individuals. So we need to get clarity on what the position is with that as well. But I mean, it's definitely a step forward, and we know that there are a lot of people out there who are in absolutely terrible circumstances, because they're in a flat that's basically worthless, but it's got a huge debt attached to it, and they can't sell it. And of course, they're under the enormous stress of knowing that actually it's extremely flammable as well. So we do hope that this moves on very quickly now, because it absolutely needs sorting.
So, Peter, that's the key to it, isn't it? It's the speed with which we can move forward with this, because I've certainly been speaking to people for well over a year on this very radio station who have been trapped in their flats. They can't move, they can't sell them, they can't remortgage them. They're finding it absolutely impossible to get any financial help or to rid themselves of the problem. But it seems that at least some of the issues are being addressed, if not entirely satisfactory, but at least there's a start.
Well, yes. The key point from a residential leaseholder's point of view is their home safe? That matters tonight. And is it saleable? That matters tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And what government have to do, and since Grenfell, and in fact, David Amos was campaigning on fire safety long before Grenfell, and I could go on at great length, but it's essentially government took a pack of cards and took out all the wrong cards until the campaigners, our all-party group, the fire cladding groups, the National Leasehold Campaign, the campaigning charity Leasehold Knowledge Partnership, help from Stephen Day, one of the campaigners on polluter pays, till we began getting through, and successive Secretaries of State are doing better. And Michael Gove, I think, will do best of all. I hope he stays long enough to carry the thing through. You've got to get to the stage where you find the real problems, fix the real problems, and then fund them, hopefully from those who caused the problem. The only thing we know for certain is the leaseholders, first of all, didn't cause the problem, and secondly, don't own a brick in the buildings for which they're being made to pay. So you need to find a way of making claims on behalf of leaseholders or their landlords in a way which will make the insurers of the builders, the developers, the surveyors, the architects, the suppliers, so they do pay up. I think it's perfectly possible. I think government should make sure that the Building Safety Bill allows for that kind of thing to happen. And I add as a lollipop this: if builders knew what they're doing was defective, they should have unlimited liability over time. If they didn't know, a claim could be made against them for 6 years after it first became known. That will bring people to the table, and that will make sure that you get the money back. But don't believe that you have to get the money first, because that will leave people in homes that are unsafe and unsellable.
Do you think, lastly, before we move off of this subject, that I remember speaking to officials in Australia because they had similar issues with cladding, and they imposed a levy on future buildings. So all constructors or building companies just had to pay into the levy every time they got a job, employment. And that created this fund that went towards the people needing the money in order to repair all the cladding. Do you think something like this perhaps will also be something worth considering moving forward? Because, as Justin pointed out, £4 billion, companies with dividends and shareholders, it's not going to be the amount of money they'll willingly just hand over.
The simple answer is yes, that'll be a contribution. It won't deal with the whole problem. And you also have to remember, of course, the government are getting back the £2 billion in levy, £2 million in tax. They get back 20% in VAT. So, in fact, they might even be cash positive. I think they need to advance more money. That's one sentence in the Simon Chalk letter, which I think is a problem. But as and when we get the chance of debating this on the floor of the House of Commons, not just once, but several times, I think the Treasury will understand it's in their interest to make sure the money is advanced. It could be borrowed by a non-government agency, so it comes off the books. The cost of funding it, running costs are low, and then you get the capital back, and everyone's out of this terrible cave. It's a terrible, terrible situation at the moment.
Okay.